Everyone at the factory called him useless, even though he was the only engineer who truly understood their imported control system. So when they blamed him for burning out a $1,000,000 piece of equipment, he did something nobody expected. He quit his secure government job on the spot. His boss thought he'd come crawling back the next morning. Instead, Jack took a job paying barely a fraction of what he was worth, rebuilt an entire production line from scratch, and within months became the one man his old factory couldn't afford to lose. Jack had been the chief electrical control engineer at Guanghua Electromechanical Factory, and that title wasn't just for show. Their most important piece of equipment was an imported PLC automation control cabinet that practically nobody in the entire factory understood. Jack had spent countless nights studying the system until he figured out exactly how it worked. But that expertise didn't make him popular with everyone. Some people saw him as an arrogant engineer who knew too much and was too difficult to control. Then one day, the factory's most important export order was suddenly in danger. The imported control cabinet had been burned out, and because Jack was the only person authorized to work on it, everyone immediately pointed the finger at him. Victor, the factory director, stood in front of everyone and tore into him. "Jack, you're the chief electrical control engineer. You managed to burn out even an imported control cabinet. If this provincial key export order falls through, can you afford to pay for it?" Jack looked around the room calmly. Everyone knew he was the only person who could even touch the controller, so blaming him was convenient. But Jack knew exactly what had happened. The protection voltage had been deliberately raised to 10 times its proper setting. The machine should have automatically shut itself down, but someone had forced it to keep running until it burned. "Victor, are you sure this is my responsibility?" Victor immediately pushed back. "If it isn't your responsibility, then whose is it? Anna's?" Jack's eyes narrowed. He knew exactly where this was going. Victor wasn't interested in finding the truth. He was interested in protecting his daughter, Anna, who had been involved with the equipment. Victor reminded Jack that the factory could survive without him, and that his secure position wasn't something he had personally given the factory. Jack finally had enough. Someone manually raised the protection voltage 10 times. The machine was supposed to cut the power automatically, but someone forced it to keep burning. Whoever did it knows exactly what they did. Then he took a breath and made his decision. "This secure job? I don't want it anymore." The room instantly erupted. His coworkers tried to stop him. After all, a chief engineer at a state-owned factory had a stable salary, benefits, and a position most people would kill for. But Jack didn't care. From that day on, whoever wanted to repair the imported controller could repair it. Whoever wanted to handle the export order could handle it. And as he walked away, he looked straight at Victor. "Didn't Anna say the factory can make money without anyone? Then let her prove it." Victor was furious. "Jack, if you walk out today, you'll be begging to come back tomorrow." Jack stopped at the door and turned around. "Victor, these knees of mine have only knelt before my parents and my master. I've never knelt before an incompetent man." He walked out. The factory workers immediately started whispering. Jack was the only breadwinner in his family. Who would dare hire someone after Victor blacklisted him? Some even advised him to swallow his pride, write an apology, and return before things got worse. But Jack already knew there was no going back. When he arrived home, his mother immediately noticed something was wrong. "Why are you home so early?" "Mom, I quit." She stared at him for a moment. She knew her son had inherited his father's stubbornness. Then she remembered something Jack's father had always said. A man could eat less for a while, but he couldn't let his backbone bend. So instead of blaming him, she simply asked where he planned to go next. Jack told her he was going to look at a factory in the southern part of the city the next day, and that's exactly what he did. The factory was much smaller than Guanghua, but its director, Henry, immediately recognized Jack's value. Jack reminded him of their previous conversation and asked whether the offer still stood. Henry didn't hesitate. "Of course. Forget 10 times your old salary. I'll give you 12 times. Jack was used to being treated like an ordinary employee at Guanghua, so even the offer sounded surprising. Henry offered him a monthly salary of $1,200, a private room, and unlimited meals at the factory cafeteria. But Jack wasn't interested in the money alone. He wanted control over the technical work. "If I stay, the electrical modifications, equipment purchases, and control wiring all have to be done according to my specifications." Henry laughed. "Agreed. Anyone who doesn't listen to you can leave." That was enough. Jack stayed. And just like that, the engineer everyone had called useless became the technical director of Tianjin Machinery Factory. But Henry wasn't hiring Jack just because of his resume. He had a problem of his own. His factory had been struggling with a production line electrical fault for months. 10 electricians had spent 3 months searching for the problem and still couldn't find it. Jack walked into the workshop, took one look at the equipment, and immediately spotted something everyone else had missed. The inverter isn't burned out. There's a short circuit in a group of signals on the control board. Henry stared at him. "Can you fix it? Give me half an hour." 30 minutes later, the machine was running perfectly again. The workers couldn't believe it. Henry looked at Jack like he'd just found a treasure. This is what a chief electrical control engineer is supposed to be, and Jack's new life had officially begun. But back at Guanghua, Victor and Anna were about to discover exactly what happens when you remove the one person who knows how your factory works. Anna walked into the control room and saw the imported PLC system locked up, the entire main board flashing red, and the screen filled with low-voltage warnings. The workers were terrified. Nobody dared touch it. Anna, however, was convinced that Jack had simply exaggerated his importance. Unplug the lines. Hard restart it. Someone hesitated, but she ordered them to do it anyway, and within moments, the entire production line went dead. Every machine stopped. The factory had completely collapsed. The same system Jack had warned them not to touch was now beyond the workers' ability to repair. When Tony, Jack's apprentice, came running to tell him what had happened, Jack immediately knew. Was the control cabinet forced open? Did they pull the wiring? Tony nodded. Anna ordered them to unplug everything and restart it. Jack shook his head. Then they might get 3 days of life out of that German machine, if they're lucky. But this wasn't a small problem anymore. The entire production line was down, and Guanghua had only 7 days left to fulfill its provincial export order. Victor finally realized he had made a terrible mistake. He sent Tony to bring Jack back, but there was only one condition. Jack had to return, admit that the original accident had been his fault, and write an apology. Tony begged him to reconsider. "Master, there are more than 3,000 people at the factory. If the line stays down, everyone loses their bonuses. People are already blaming Anna, but nobody dares say it to her face." Jack listened quietly. Then he shook his head. A factory doesn't collapse because one technician leaves. It collapses because people who don't understand technology start giving orders. He refused to return, and then he did something that changed everything. Instead of helping Guanghua save its export order, Jack decided to take the order for himself. He turned to Henry. "That export order from Guanghua, I want it." Henry nearly fell out of his chair. "That provincial-level order? But our little factory?" Jack wasn't worried. The equipment might be old, but it could be modified. Guanghua's entire production line was trapped by its dependence on the imported control computer. Jack planned to tear that control system apart and rebuild it using a different control architecture. If he succeeded, the factory that everyone considered too small and too poor to compete would take the biggest order Guanghua was struggling to complete. Henry grinned. "Then let's show that state-owned factory what real technical skill looks like." Jack had just made the decision to take Guanghua's export order, but there was one problem. His new factory was small, its equipment was old, and they had only a few days to build a production line that could actually compete with a major state-owned factory. But Jack wasn't intimidated. If Guanghua had the imported computer, Jack had something even more valuable. He understood exactly how the system worked. He immediately started rebuilding the control system from scratch. Instead of depending on the imported computer to control every movement, he separated the control points and rebuilt the system using relays and frequency converters. The goal was simple: make every individual step stable enough that the entire production line wouldn't collapse just because one computer malfunctioned. The problem was the timing. The signal delay had to stay within an extremely narrow range, and Jack refused to accept anything that wasn't precise. For hours, Jack and the workers stayed in the workshop, surrounded by wires, old equipment, meters, and control panels. He barely stopped to drink water. Finally, they pushed the power switch. Everyone held their breath. Jack checked the meter. 0.01 seconds. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then the workers erupted. They had done it. The system was stable, and that meant the tiny factory had just built a working control system capable of handling the order Guanghua couldn't complete. But Jack didn't even have time to celebrate. The provincial foreign trade manager, Manager Zheng, was arriving with Director Wu to inspect the factory. If the sample passed, the entire export order could be transferred to Tianjin Machinery Factory. When the two officials arrived, they looked around at the old workshop and immediately seemed skeptical. "You have equipment this old, and you're taking an export equipment order?" Jack didn't flinch. "The factory is small, and the equipment is old, but whether we can do the job isn't determined by how impressive the building looks." Manager Zheng studied him carefully. "So you're Jack? The electrical control engineer who used to work at Guanghua?" "Yes, I used to work there." "Then why did you leave?" Jack didn't answer immediately. "Let's look at the product first." He brought them to the newly built sample. The foreign trade drawings required extremely precise signal response, and Jack explained that an ordinary multimeter couldn't properly verify it. They needed a high-precision oscilloscope. Manager Zheng was impressed. "How did you manage to build this?" Jack explained exactly why Guanghua's system had failed. Their problem wasn't the drawings or the materials. Their control architecture had been designed around the imported computer, so once the parameters were corrupted, the entire system became unstable. Jack had taken the opposite approach. He separated the control processes and gave each stage its own control point. It wasn't necessarily the fastest system in the world, but every step was stable. Then came the question that mattered most. "If we give you the order, can you deliver in 7 days?" Jack asked how many units. 1,200 sets. "And technically, you only have 6.5 days left." Jack didn't even blink. 6 days is enough. Henry's heart nearly jumped out of his chest. Manager Zheng warned him that missing the deadline would mean a serious penalty. Guanghua had already delayed the order once, and nobody wanted to take another risk. Jack simply made a promise. "If I can't finish it, I won't take a single cent. But if I finish it, I want the payment settled immediately." That was enough. The contract was signed. And that's when Victor and Anna showed up. Victor couldn't believe Jack had actually taken Guanghua's order. He immediately accused him of stealing Guanghua's technical drawings. Anna went even further. "Those wiring arrangements are our factory's technology." Jack looked at her. and calmly pointed out that Guanghua was using German optical sensors, while his new control nodes had been built from old relays and components sitting around Tianjin's workshop. "So tell me," Jack said, "what exactly did I steal? Your drawings or your materials?" Victor tried to smooth things over. He offered Jack his old position back, even promising him a deputy chief engineer position and better treatment. There was only one condition. Jack had to return to Guanghua and repair the control cabinet. Jack considered it for a moment. "Fine. Then answer one question first. Who takes responsibility for the accident?" Victor immediately changed the subject. "That's something we can deal with later." Jack smiled. "If you can't even admit who was responsible, then there's nothing left to discuss." He turned to Manager Zheng, continue the contract, but Victor wasn't finished. He reminded Jack that his mother still lived in the Guanghua factory housing compound and that his family's household registration was still connected to the factory. That was the moment Jack's expression changed. "Victor, if you dare use my family against me, go ahead and try." Then he made Victor a promise. "By tomorrow morning, you won't still be sitting in that factory director's chair." Jack wasn't bluffing. He had kept the original control parameters from before the accident. He also had the altered parameters from the night the machine was destroyed, along with a security log showing that Anna had entered the automation workshop at 9:01 that night. The evidence showed that the protection voltage hadn't simply malfunctioned. Someone had changed it, and Jack knew exactly who. Director Wu examined the records carefully. Victor immediately tried to defend Anna. "She's young. She doesn't understand the control system. How could she have changed the parameters?" Jack's response was brutal. She didn't understand it, yet she still dared to change it. Isn't that exactly the problem? Anna denied everything. "I only went in there to take a look." Jack's apprentice Tony finally stepped forward. He had been on the night shift. He had seen Anna enter the automation workshop and tell him not to follow her. When he came back later, the control room door was open, and Anna had been holding the parameter records. Jack had also kept sealed status records, and the seal had been torn that night. Tony admitted that he had been too afraid to speak earlier, but now the factory was about to collapse, and he couldn't stay silent anymore. The evidence was overwhelming. Director Wu immediately understood what had happened. This wasn't an operating mistake. Anna had manually altered the protection parameters, and because Guanghua's control system was now completely disabled, the provincial export order could no longer wait. Director Wu made the decision. The order would be transferred to Tianjin Machinery Factory under the emergency plan. Anna panicked. "No. If the order is transferred, Guanghua's annual target is finished." Director Wu didn't hesitate. "What's more important, your factory's target or the province's foreign trade reputation?" Anna turned on Jack. "You can't sign it. You're only doing this because you want revenge." Jack stared at her. "This isn't revenge. You made the mistake yourself." Then he told her exactly what she had failed to understand. "You don't understand technology, but you refuse to respect it. You don't respect the workers, yet you expect them to keep the factory running for you." And now the factory that had called Jack useless was watching him take its biggest order right in front of them. Anna finally broke. She begged him to come back. "Jack, I'll give you whatever you want. Money, a house, a position, a title. Just come back and fix the control cabinet." But Jack wasn't interested. "When you publicly blamed me for something I didn't do, you didn't think you were going too far. When you threatened my family's livelihood, you didn't think you were going too far. Now that you're desperate, suddenly I'm the one being unreasonable?" He turned away. Too late. Then he looked at Henry. "Start production." The entire factory came alive. Jack ordered every production line to be powered up, and the workers worked through the night. "If we finish this export order tonight, I'll give everyone 3 months worth of bonuses." That was all the motivation they needed. The workers worked non-stop, and somehow, against all odds, they did it. All 1,200 sets were completed, inspected, and passed quality control. The shipment was loaded and sent toward the port. Tianjin Machinery Factory had just completed in days what Guanghua couldn't do with its expensive imported system. But while Jack's factory was celebrating, chaos was erupting at Guanghua. The workers there had surrounded the administrative building. They were demanding answers. Anna had been warned not to touch the equipment, but she'd done it anyway. Now the factory was facing a massive loss, and everyone wanted someone to take responsibility. Victor looked around at the angry workers and finally realized that protecting his daughter had nearly destroyed everything he had built. And with the investigation team already on its way, Victor knew there was only one person who might still be able to save them. Victor finally came to Jack personally, hoping the man he'd once driven out of the factory would come back and save him. He offered to transfer Jack back to his old engineering position and even promised him 3 months of bonuses. But Jack wasn't interested in being bought off anymore. 3 months of bonuses? Victor, what's that supposed to be? Charity? Victor told him to name his conditions. Jack didn't hesitate. "First, you publicly tell the entire factory that Anna caused the accident by changing the parameters herself. Second, remove every disciplinary record placed on me. Third, apologize to me in front of the entire workforce. And fourth, Anna gets fired." Victor's expression immediately changed. "You've got some nerve. What right do you have to fire my daughter?" Jack stared straight at him. "You caused a major production accident, nearly made the factory default on its export order, and then covered for the person responsible. Isn't that enough?" Victor could accept the first 3 conditions. But firing his daughter? Absolutely not. She's my daughter. She's young. She made a mistake. Jack shook his head. Then there's nothing to discuss. Victor couldn't understand why Jack was being so ruthless, but Jack reminded him that he had already given him more than enough chances. At the factory meeting, Victor could have investigated the truth. When Jack submitted his resignation, Victor could have simply made Anna apologize. Even when Victor came begging him to return, Jack had still been prepared to help. But every single time, Victor chose to protect Anna. Now the production line was down, the export order was gone, the workers were furious, and the investigation team had arrived. Only now did Victor remember Jack. You're acting like you're some big shot just because you can connect a few wires, Victor snapped. Without Guanghua Factory, what are you? Henry stepped forward before Jack even had to answer. He's the technical director of Tianjin Machinery Factory. He makes 1,200 yuan a month. He's the designated technical lead for our export orders, and he just helped us take an overseas order that Guanghua couldn't complete. Henry looked Victor straight in the eye. He's someone your factory can't afford to hire anymore. That sentence hit harder than any insult Jack could have delivered himself. Then the investigation team arrived. Victor and Anna were taken away to assist with the investigation, while Jack was asked to submit his technical records. The investigators were stunned when they saw how complete his documentation was. Engineer Jack, these records are more complete than Guanghua's own archives. Jack simply replied that anyone working with electrical equipment had to keep their hands steady, and their minds even steadier. When something went wrong, someone had to find the truth. And this time, the truth finally came out. The official notice was released soon afterward. Victor was found responsible for serious management failures, and for protecting the person responsible for the accident. He was removed from his position as factory director, and transferred elsewhere for further investigation. Anna's position as a factory cadre was cancelled because of her unauthorized operation of the imported equipment. Guanghua Factory got a new director. Jack, meanwhile, was finally cleared. And then something even better happened. Tianjin Machinery Factory received an official commendation. Jack, look, the provincial notice is praising our factory. Another worker pointed at the announcement. Your name is on it too. The workers erupted. Engineer Jack. Long live Engineer Jack. Jack immediately waved them off. Enough cheering. We've still got work to do. And sure enough, Manager Zheng arrived with another order. Jack asked how big it was. Manager Zheng smiled. Bigger than the last one. How big? An export order for Germany. Jack froze for a second. Germany, the same country whose equipment Guanghua had once relied on, was now buying equipment from them. And there was one more detail. The German side specifically requested that you lead the technical work. Jack couldn't help smiling. Not long ago, he had been told that without Guanghua Factory, he was nothing. Now his own factory was exporting products overseas, and foreign customers were specifically asking for him. The new equipment soon arrived. More workers were hired, and the factory's new building was scheduled for expansion. Henry also increased Jack's salary to 1,500 yuan a month and handed him 8,000 yuan from the previous export order as his share of the profits. Jack looked at the money. Director Henry, are you planning to tie me to Tianjin Factory for good? Henry laughed. That's exactly the plan. If you leave, where am I supposed to find another chief electrical control engineer like you? For the first time, Jack knew he had completely escaped the life he had once thought he couldn't afford to lose. He went home and showed the money to his mother. She immediately became worried. Jack, where did all this money come from? Is it legitimate? Jack smiled. I earned it with my skills, Mom. Every cent is clean. Henry reassured her that Jack's talent was worth far more than what the factory was paying him. His mother finally relaxed, but then an unexpected request came. Guanghua's imported control system had been broken for half a month, and their technicians still couldn't locate the short circuit. They offered Jack 5,000 yuan just to repair it. His mother immediately told him he didn't have to go if he didn't want to. Jack thought about it. Then he agreed. I'm not going to help them because of some old friendship. I'm going because they're paying me. And there was another reason. He wanted everyone at Guanghua to finally understand something. Technical skill was never free. When Jack walked back into Guanghua, the workers immediately recognized him. It's Engineer Jack. They watched as he examined the machine that had kept them stuck for half a month. Jack barely needed any time. The problem isn't that serious. The workers stared at him. We spent half a month checking those circuits, and you say it's not serious? Jack calmly explained what they needed to do. Pull out the main board, discharge the static electricity, reflash the control program, then restore the protection voltage parameters to their original values. They followed his instructions. A few moments later, the indicator changed. The green light came on. The machine started working again. The entire room erupted. It really works! Engineer Jack, you're incredible! One of the workers looked at him with mixed admiration and regret. Guanghua Factory really did owe you an apology. Jack didn't argue. I already got my justice. Then he made one thing clear. From now on, if you need me, follow the contract. But don't talk to me about old friendships. And that should have been the end of it. But then, Anna came to him. The same woman who had once accused him of being useless was now standing in front of him, asking for a job. I can't find work anymore. My father can't help me. You have so much influence now. Could you let me work at Tianjin Factory? Jack looked at her. What can you do? She hesitated. I can manage an office. I used to be a department supervisor. Jack shook his head. Tianjin doesn't employ people who don't have useful skills. Then he gave her 3 choices: production line worker, warehouse clerk, or cafeteria assistant. Anna's face immediately turned red. "Jack, are you deliberately humiliating me?" "No," Jack looked at her calmly. "I'm simply paying people according to what they can actually do." Anna finally admitted that she had been wrong. She said she had been young and didn't understand what she was doing. She begged him to forgive her just once. Jack's answer was simple: no. Why? Because forgiving you that easily would be too cheap. And after everything that happened, Jack finally looked back at the 6 years that had changed his life. 6 years earlier, he had been the chief electrical control engineer at Guanghua factory. The factory had an imported PLC automation cabinet that nobody knew how to operate. Nobody except him. He had spent countless nights studying it until he finally mastered the system. Then he was falsely accused, humiliated in front of the entire workforce, and forced to walk away from the secure job everyone else considered a golden opportunity. He went to Tianjin Machinery Factory and started from almost nothing. The first time their automated equipment finally passed inspection, the workers around him were so emotional that some of them cried. Jack didn't. Then they worked together for 3 straight days and nights to complete the export order, and now their products were being sold overseas. That was when Jack understood something. A so-called iron rice bowl wasn't a job where you could sit around and expect to be fed forever. A real iron rice bowl was having the ability to find work and earn a living wherever you went. If you truly had the skills, people would respect you, not because of your title, not because of your connections, but because they couldn't replace you. And just when Jack thought the story was finally over, Victor came to see him one last time. He looked completely different from the factory director who had once stood over Jack and accused him. "Jack, what happened back then was my fault. I'm sorry." Jack listened quietly. Victor also told him that Anna had gone south to find work. Before leaving, she'd asked Victor to pass along one final message. She regretted touching that machine she never understood. Jack looked at Victor and gave him one final piece of advice. She shouldn't regret touching the machine because it was complicated. She should regret touching something she didn't understand and then expecting someone else to clean up the mess. Victor could only sigh. "You still talk as tough as ever." Jack smiled. "A machine has to be tough to do its job properly. People are the same." Just then, Manager Zheng arrived with the final news. The German side wanted Jack to lead the technical negotiations for the next contract. Jack looked toward the road ahead. He had once been told that without Guanghua he was nothing. Now foreign customers were specifically asking for him by name, so Jack simply nodded. "Lead the way." He was ready to show them what real Chinese technical skill could do.